My girlfriend's obsession with my married female coworker destroyed our relationship and exposed her family's toxic behavior. After our breakup, she launched a harassment campaign that almost destroyed multiple careers and a marriage before her family intervened. I, 28M, just went through one of the most exhausting breakups of my life with my ex-girlfriend Samantha, 26F. We dated for 8 months before everything fell apart over something that seems completely ridiculous when I write it out, but here we are. I work at a marketing firm where I've been employed for 3 years. The company has about 40 employees, and we're all pretty close since it's not a huge corporation. One of my closest work friends is Lydia, 29F, who started about 6 months after me. We clicked immediately because we have similar humor and work styles. She's married to Bruce, 32M, and they've been together for almost 7 years, married for 3. Lydia and I often grab lunch together, sometimes stay late to finish projects, and text about work stuff or funny memes we find. It's completely platonic. She talks about Bruce constantly, shows me pictures from their weekend trips, and even invited me to their housewarming party last year where I met several of their mutual friends. I've always seen her as the sister I never had, and I thought that was obvious to everyone who knows us. When Samantha and I started dating last February, I was upfront about my work friendships. I mentioned Lydia early on, explained that we're close colleagues, and even showed Samantha some of our harmless text conversations about work projects and random jokes. Samantha seemed fine with it initially. She even said it was nice that I had good friends at work since her previous boyfriend had hated his job and complained about his coworkers constantly. The problem started about 4 months into our relationship. Samantha began making subtle comments about how much time I spent with Lydia. She would count the days I mentioned having lunch with her or note when Lydia's name came up in conversations about work. At first, I thought Samantha was just being observant, but then the comments became more pointed. One evening in June, Samantha asked why Lydia texted me on weekends. I explained that sometimes we share articles or memes, just like I do with my other friends. Samantha said it seemed excessive for a married woman to be texting another man outside work hours. I pointed out that the texts were completely innocent and usually about work-related topics or shared interests, but Samantha said that didn't matter because it showed Lydia was thinking about me during her personal time. I started showing Samantha every text Lydia sent me, hoping to prove there was nothing inappropriate happening. The texts were things like Lydia sending me a funny video she found, asking if I wanted to split an order from the new sandwich place near our office, or checking if I had finished the client presentation we were both working on. Samantha would read them and say they seemed fine on the surface, but she was sure there were underlying meanings I wasn't catching. The situation got worse when Lydia invited me to her and Bruce's 4th of July barbecue. They were having about 20 people over, including several mutual coworkers and their partners. I was excited to go and assumed Samantha would come with me. When I mentioned the invitation, Samantha immediately became suspicious about why Lydia had invited me specifically. I explained that Lydia had invited several people from work, but Samantha fixated on the fact that the invitation came directly to me rather than being announced to the whole office. Samantha refused to attend the barbecue. She said she didn't want to watch Lydia flirt with me in front of everyone, and she was sure Lydia had only invited me to show off in front of her husband and friends. I ended up going alone, which was awkward because several other coworkers brought their partners. Lydia asked where Samantha was, and I made up some excuse about her being busy with family commitments. After the barbecue, Samantha interrogated me about every detail. She wanted to know how Lydia was dressed, whether she paid special attention to me, if Bruce seemed suspicious of our friendship, and whether other people commented on how close Lydia and I appeared to be. I tried to reassure her that it was just a normal social gathering, but Samantha was convinced that Lydia was putting on a show of being happily married while secretly pursuing me. Things escalated in August when my company announced a team-building retreat for our department. It was a 2-day event at a conference center about an hour outside the city, with workshops during the day and group activities in the evening. Everyone was excited about it, especially since the company was paying for everything and treating it like a mini vacation. Samantha immediately objected to me going. She said it was inappropriate for me to spend 2 days and 1 night at a retreat with Lydia, especially since there would be drinking involved during the evening activities. I tried to explain that there would be 12 other people there, including our department manager and several senior colleagues, but Samantha was convinced that Lydia had somehow orchestrated the retreat as an opportunity to seduce me. The retreat was completely professional. We had workshops on project management, client communication, and industry trends. In the evenings, we played team-building games, had group dinners, and some people went to the hotel bar afterward. Lydia and I interacted exactly the same way we always did at work, and she spent most of the evening activities talking to our manager about a promotion opportunity that was coming up. When I returned from the retreat, Samantha demanded to see every photo taken during the trip. Several people had posted pictures on social media, and Samantha analyzed each one looking for evidence of inappropriate behavior between Lydia and me. In one group photo, Lydia and I happened to be standing next to each other, and Samantha said our body language looked too comfortable. In another picture, Lydia was laughing at something someone had said, and Samantha insisted she was looking at me while laughing. The final straw came in early September. Lydia's husband Bruce got a promotion at his job, and Lydia was planning a surprise celebration dinner for him. She asked me and a few other friends to help coordinate the surprise, which involved making dinner reservations, inviting Bruce's friends and family, and keeping him distracted beforehand. It was a lot of work, and Lydia was really grateful for everyone's help. On the day of the celebration, Lydia texted me a picture of the cake she had ordered, which said "Congratulations, Bruce," in blue frosting. She included a message saying she was nervous about pulling off the surprise and thanking me for helping with all the planning. It was a perfectly normal text between friends who had worked together on something special. Samantha saw the text and exploded. She said the cake picture proved that Lydia was treating me like her boyfriend rather than her husband's friend. She couldn't understand why Lydia would share such a personal moment with me instead of with her female friends or family members. Samantha said the text showed that I was the first person Lydia thought to contact when she was excited or nervous, which proved she had romantic attachments toward me. I tried to explain that Lydia was just thanking everyone who had helped with the surprise, but Samantha wouldn't listen. She said I was being naive and that Lydia was obviously using the celebration as an excuse to involve me in her personal life. Samantha demanded that I skip the dinner entirely and cut off all non-work communication with Lydia immediately. I refused. Bruce is a good guy. Lydia had worked hard to plan something special for him, and I had already committed to being there. I told Samantha she was welcome to come to the dinner with me, thinking that meeting Lydia and Bruce in person might help her realize how wrong she was about the situation. Samantha said she would rather die than watch Lydia manipulate me at her husband's celebration dinner. She accused me of choosing Lydia over her and said I was prioritizing another woman's happiness over my girlfriend's concerns. The argument lasted for hours, with Samantha crying and saying she couldn't trust me anymore if I insisted on maintaining such a close friendship with a married woman. I went to Bruce's celebration dinner. It was wonderful. About 15 people came. Bruce was genuinely surprised and thrilled, and Lydia was glowing with happiness that she had pulled it off successfully. Several people gave toasts. Bruce thanked Lydia publicly for organizing everything, and everyone had a great time. Lydia introduced me to some of Bruce's family members as her good friend from work, and Bruce shook my hand and thanked me specifically for helping coordinate the surprise. When I got home that night, Samantha was waiting with all my belongings packed in boxes by the door. She said she couldn't be in a relationship with someone who refused to respect her boundaries and who prioritized other women over her. She had spent the evening talking to her mother and sister, who both agreed that my behavior was completely inappropriate and that Lydia was obviously trying to steal me away from her. Samantha moved back in with her parents the next day. For 2 weeks, she sent me long text messages explaining why I was wrong and how Lydia had manipulated both Bruce and me. She said Lydia was probably unhappy in her marriage and using our friendship as an emotional affair to fill whatever was missing from her relationship with Bruce. Samantha's family continued to support her theory, telling her she was smart to leave me before I cheated on her with Lydia. Update 1: The breakup with Samantha happened 3 weeks ago, and I thought that would be the end of the drama. I was wrong. Last Monday, I was having lunch in the break room at work when our HR manager, Gwen, 45F, asked to speak with me privately. She led me to her office and closed the door, which immediately made me nervous because Gwen only does that for serious conversations. Gwen told me that someone had called the office on Friday afternoon and made a complaint about my relationship with Lydia. The caller claimed that Lydia and I were having an inappropriate workplace relationship that was affecting the professional environment and potentially constituting harassment. Gwen said the caller provided specific details about our interactions, including information about lunch meetings, text messages, and the recent team retreat. I was shocked. Gwen explained that while she didn't believe the complaint had merit based on her observations of Lydia and me, she was required to investigate any harassment claims thoroughly. She asked me to describe my relationship with Lydia and provide context for the specific incidents the caller had mentioned. I told Gwen everything about my friendship with Lydia, including the issues it had caused in my relationship with Samantha. I explained that Samantha had become increasingly suspicious of my friendship with Lydia and that we had broken up partially because of those concerns. Gwen took notes and said she would need to interview Lydia separately and review any relevant communications. Gwen asked if I thought Samantha might have been the person who called. I said it seemed possible given the timing and the specific details mentioned, but I couldn't be sure. Gwen warned me that false harassment claims were serious matters and that if Samantha had made the complaint, there could be consequences for her actions. After my meeting with Gwen, I found Lydia at her desk and asked to speak with her privately. We went to one of the small conference rooms, and I explained what had happened with HR. Lydia's face went completely pale. She said she couldn't believe someone would try to sabotage our jobs over a misunderstanding about our friendship. Lydia told me that Bruce had mentioned receiving some strange phone calls recently. Someone had called their home number twice in the past week, asking questions about Lydia's work relationships and specifically mentioning my name. Bruce had assumed they were spam calls or maybe someone from a survey company, but now Lydia wondered if it had been Samantha trying to gather information about our friendship. The next day, Gwen called both Lydia and me back to her office. She said she had completed her initial investigation and found no evidence of inappropriate behavior between us. Our work emails and communications were all professional, our colleagues had no concerns about our interactions, and our manager praised our collaborative work relationship. However, Gwen had some disturbing news. She had been able to trace the complaint call through the office phone system, and it had indeed come from Samantha. More concerning was that Gwen had discovered Samantha had been calling our office multiple times over the past month, asking to speak with Lydia directly and claiming to be a potential client interested in our marketing services. Gwen explained that the receptionist had transferred several of these calls to Lydia, who had spent time trying to help what she thought were legitimate business inquiries. Lydia confirmed that she had received multiple calls from someone asking detailed questions about our client services, project timelines, and specifically about which team members worked on which accounts. The caller had always hung up before scheduling any actual meetings or providing real contact information. Lydia realized that Samantha had been using these fake client calls to monitor our work relationship and gather information about our daily interactions. Samantha had probably learned about the team retreat, Bruce's celebration dinner, and other events through these deceptive phone calls. Gwen said she was documenting everything and would be contacting Samantha directly to address the false harassment complaint and the fraudulent client calls. She warned both Lydia and me that we might need to involve law enforcement if Samantha continued to contact our workplace or interfere with our jobs. I left work that day completely stunned by how far Samantha had gone to monitor my friendship with Lydia. When I got home, I found 3 voicemails from Samantha on my phone. In the first message, she said she knew I had probably figured out that she had called my office, and she wasn't apologetic about it. She said she had been trying to protect me from Lydia's manipulation and that I would thank her eventually when I realized the truth. In the second voicemail, Samantha's tone was more aggressive. She said Gwen had called her and threatened her with legal action, which was ridiculous because she had only been trying to expose Lydia's inappropriate behavior. Samantha claimed that Lydia had probably coached Gwen on what to say and that the whole investigation was biased from the start. The third message was the most disturbing. Samantha said she had spoken with Bruce directly and told him everything about Lydia's behavior toward me. She claimed that Bruce was grateful for the information and was planning to confront Lydia about her emotional affair. Samantha said I should expect Lydia to become very upset at work once Bruce demanded that she stop contact with me entirely. I immediately called Lydia to warn her about Samantha's contact with Bruce. Lydia answered the phone in tears. She said Bruce had indeed received a call from Samantha that afternoon, and it had been devastating for their marriage. Samantha had told Bruce that Lydia was having an emotional affair with me, that we frequently texted outside work hours, and that Lydia had been using work events as opportunities to spend time with me romantically. Bruce was confused and hurt by Samantha's allegations. He knew that Lydia and I were close friends, and he had never suspected anything inappropriate about our relationship. However, Samantha had presented the information in a way that made innocent interactions sound secretive and romantic. She had also provided details about our friendship that made it seem like Lydia had been hiding things from Bruce. Lydia and Bruce had a long, difficult conversation that evening. Lydia showed Bruce all of our text conversations, explained the context behind our work events, and assured him that our relationship was completely platonic. Bruce believed her, but the situation had planted seeds of doubt that were causing tension in their marriage. Lydia was devastated that Samantha's actions were now affecting her relationship with Bruce. She had never done anything wrong, but Samantha's interference was creating problems in her marriage that didn't exist before. Lydia said she was considering asking for a transfer to a different department to avoid any further complications. I spent that entire night thinking about how Samantha's behavior had escalated from simple jealousy to deliberate sabotage of multiple relationships. She had lied to my employer, deceived my coworker, and was now trying to destroy Lydia's marriage. The situation had gone far beyond a normal breakup and had become something much more serious and concerning. Update 2: The situation with Samantha has continued to escalate in ways I never could have imagined. What I thought was over after the HR investigation turned out to be just the beginning of a much more complicated mess. 2 weeks after my last update, Lydia came to work visibly upset. She pulled me aside and explained that Samantha had somehow obtained Bruce's work email address and had been sending him detailed messages about our friendship. The emails included screenshots of our text conversations, photos from work events where Lydia and I appeared together, and Samantha's interpretations of what these interactions really meant. Bruce showed Lydia the emails, and they were disturbing. Samantha had annotated our text messages with her own commentary, highlighting what she considered flirtatious language and explaining why each message proved Lydia had romantic intentions toward me. She had even created a timeline of our friendship, marking what she called escalation points where Lydia had allegedly become more aggressive in pursuing me. One email focused entirely on the team retreat from August. Samantha had somehow acquired photos from social media posts and circled Lydia and me in group pictures, drawing arrows to point out our body language and facial expressions. She claimed these photos showed Lydia deliberately positioning herself near me and excluding other colleagues from our conversations. Bruce was initially dismissive of Samantha's emails, but the constant messages were wearing on him. Samantha was sending multiple emails per day, each one analyzing different aspects of Lydia's and my friendship. She had started including links to articles about emotional affairs and signs that a spouse might be having inappropriate relationships with coworkers. Lydia was mortified that her marriage was being scrutinized by someone she had never even met. Bruce trusted her completely, but Samantha's relentless campaign was making him question interactions he had previously thought nothing about. He started asking Lydia questions about work events, wanting more details about conversations she had with me, and becoming generally more suspicious of her work friendships. The breaking point came when Samantha showed up at Lydia's and Bruce's house on a Saturday afternoon. Lydia was out running errands, and Bruce was home alone working in the yard. Samantha introduced herself as my ex-girlfriend and said she needed to speak with him about his wife's behavior toward me. Bruce later described the conversation to Lydia, and it sounded like something out of a psychological thriller. Samantha had prepared a presentation folder filled with printed emails, text message screenshots, and photos. She spent over an hour going through what she called evidence of Lydia's emotional affair, pointing out specific instances where she believed Lydia had crossed appropriate boundaries. Samantha told Bruce that Lydia was probably unhappy in their marriage and using me as an emotional outlet for whatever was missing from their relationship. She claimed that Lydia had been deliberately cultivating a close friendship with me as a way to have the excitement of a romantic connection without technically cheating. Samantha said most emotional affairs started exactly this way, with innocent workplace friendships that gradually became more intimate and secretive. Bruce was polite but firm in telling Samantha that he didn't appreciate her interference in his marriage. He explained that he knew about Lydia's friendship with me, had met me multiple times, and had no concerns about their relationship. Samantha responded by saying that Bruce was being naive and that most husbands don't recognize emotional affairs until it's too late. When Lydia returned home and Bruce told her about Samantha's visit, she was terrified. The idea that Samantha knew where they lived and was willing to show up unannounced was frightening. Lydia realized that Samantha had been researching their personal information and tracking their daily routines to find an opportunity to approach Bruce when Lydia wasn't around. Lydia and Bruce decided to contact the police about Samantha's harassment. They filed a report documenting the unwanted emails, the unexpected home visit, and the ongoing interference in their marriage. The police officer explained that while Samantha's behavior was concerning, it would be difficult to pursue legal action unless she made direct threats or violated a restraining order. Meanwhile, I was dealing with my own escalation from Samantha. She had started sending me long emails explaining her conversation with Bruce and why she believed her intervention had been necessary. Samantha said Bruce had been grateful for the information, although that directly contradicted what Lydia had told me about Bruce's reaction. Samantha's emails to me became increasingly erratic. She alternated between apologizing for the extreme measures she had taken and justifying her actions as necessary to protect everyone involved. She claimed that Lydia was manipulating both Bruce and me, and that neither of us could see the situation clearly because we were too emotionally invested. In one particularly long email, Samantha detailed what she believed were Lydia's calculated moves to insert herself into my personal life. She said Lydia had deliberately invited me to work events, initiated text conversations about non-work topics, and shared personal information about her marriage to create artificial intimacy between us. Samantha insisted that Lydia's behavior followed classic patterns of women who pursue married men or men in relationships. I didn't respond to any of Samantha's emails, but she continued sending them. She started copying our mutual friends on some messages, trying to get other people's opinions about whether Lydia's behavior had been appropriate. Most of our friends were confused by the emails and uncomfortable being dragged into the situation. Samantha also began reaching out to my family members on social media. She sent messages to my sister and my mother explaining why we had broken up and asking them to help convince me that Lydia was manipulating me. My sister called me after receiving one of these messages, concerned about Samantha's mental state and worried about my safety. The situation reached a new level of absurdity when Samantha created a fake social media account to follow Lydia's personal profiles. Lydia noticed the new follower and recognized details from the account that matched information Samantha had mentioned in her emails to Bruce. Samantha was apparently monitoring Lydia's social media posts and using them to gather more information about her personal life and daily activities. Lydia changed all her privacy settings and blocked the fake account, but she was disturbed that Samantha had been watching her online activity. Combined with the unexpected house visit, Lydia now felt like Samantha was stalking both her and Bruce. The constant surveillance was affecting Lydia's sense of safety and making her paranoid about who might be watching her in public. Gwen from HR called me in for another meeting to discuss the ongoing situation. She said the company had received additional complaints about Lydia and me, all coming from the same source. Samantha was now claiming that we were retaliating against her for exposing our inappropriate relationship, and she was threatening to contact the company's clients to warn them about the unprofessional behavior in our office. Gwen was clearly frustrated with the situation. She assured me that the company stood behind Lydia and me completely, but she was concerned about the potential impact on our business if Samantha followed through on her threats to contact clients. Gwen said she was consulting with the company's legal team about options for stopping Samantha's harassment of our workplace. Update 3: I'm writing this final update because the situation with Samantha has finally come to an end, though not in any way I could have predicted when this all started. 3 days after my last update, Samantha's harassment campaign took a turn that even I didn't see coming. She somehow obtained the contact information for several of our company's major clients and began calling them to report what she described as unprofessional conduct in our marketing department. Samantha told these clients that our company employed people who were having workplace affairs, creating a hostile environment that reflected poorly on our business ethics. She specifically named Lydia and me, claiming that we were using company time and resources to conduct a personal relationship that was affecting our work quality and professionalism. 2 clients called our office directly to ask about Samantha's allegations. Gwen had to spend hours on the phone with these clients, explaining that a disgruntled individual was making false claims about our employees and assuring them that the accusations were completely unfounded. Both clients accepted Gwen's explanations, but the situation was embarrassing for our company and potentially damaging to our professional reputation. Gwen immediately involved our legal team, who sent Samantha a cease and desist letter demanding that she stop contacting our workplace, our clients, and our employees. The letter warned that continued interference with our business operations could result in serious legal consequences, including lawsuits for defamation and intentional interference with business relationships. Samantha's response to the legal letter was to double down on her campaign. She created a blog post titled "How Companies Enable Workplace Affairs," where she detailed what she claimed were the facts about Lydia's and my relationship. The post included our real names, our company's name, and Samantha's version of events leading up to our breakup. She presented herself as a whistleblower exposing corporate misconduct and unethical behavior in professional environments. The blog post was filled with distorted information and outright lies. Samantha claimed that Lydia and I had been caught in compromising situations at work, that we had been reprimanded by HR for inappropriate behavior, and that our company was covering up our misconduct to avoid scandal. She included photos from work events taken out of context and presented them as evidence of our alleged affair. Lydia was devastated when she discovered the blog post. Seeing her name and reputation attacked publicly online was humiliating and frightening. She worried that the post would appear in internet searches of her name and potentially affect her career opportunities in the future. Bruce was furious that his wife was being publicly slandered by someone who had never even met her. Our legal team immediately began working to have the blog post removed and to pursue legal action against Samantha. They explained that Samantha's post constituted clear defamation, as she was making false statements that could damage Lydia's and my professional reputations. The lawyers said we had strong grounds for a lawsuit, but warned that legal proceedings could be lengthy and expensive. Meanwhile, Samantha escalated her personal harassment of Lydia and Bruce. She began driving by their house regularly, sometimes parking across the street for extended periods. Lydia would look out her window and see Samantha's car parked there, with Samantha sitting inside apparently watching their home. This surveillance continued for several days before Lydia and Bruce called the police again. The police were more responsive this time because Samantha's behavior had crossed into clear stalking territory. They visited Samantha at her parents' house, where she was living since our breakup, and warned her that her actions constituted criminal harassment. Samantha's parents were reportedly shocked to learn about the extent of her behavior and the legal trouble she was creating for herself. 2 days after the police visit, I received a phone call from Samantha's mother, Linda, 52F. Linda apologized profusely for her daughter's behavior and explained that the family was finally recognizing that Samantha needed professional help for what appeared to be serious mental health issues. Linda said they had been supporting Samantha's version of events initially, but the stalking and blog post had made them realize that her behavior was completely inappropriate and potentially dangerous. Linda asked if there was anything the family could do to resolve the situation and prevent legal action against Samantha. I told her that the decision about legal proceedings was primarily up to Lydia and our company's legal team, since they had been the most affected by Samantha's actions. Linda said the family was prepared to pay for the removal of the blog post and any other expenses related to cleaning up the damage Samantha had caused. The next week brought a surprising development. Samantha sent me a handwritten letter delivered through her parents. In the letter, she admitted that her behavior had been completely out of line and that she had been struggling with mental health issues that she hadn't properly addressed. She apologized for the harassment, the lies, and the damage she had caused to everyone involved. Samantha explained that she had been seeing a psychiatrist who had diagnosed her with several conditions that affected her judgment and perception of relationships. She said she was beginning medication and therapy to address these issues, though she acknowledged that treatment didn't excuse the harm she had caused. Most importantly, Samantha took full responsibility for her actions and agreed to all the demands our legal team had made. She arranged for the blog post to be permanently removed, stopped all contact with our workplace and clients, and agreed to a restraining order that prohibited her from contacting Lydia, Bruce, or me in any way. Lydia and Bruce decided not to pursue criminal charges against Samantha, feeling that her mental health treatment and the restraining order were sufficient consequences. Our company chose not to file a civil lawsuit, partly because Samantha's family had offered to compensate us for the business expenses related to her harassment and partly because everyone just wanted the situation to end. The whole ordeal lasted nearly 6 months from the time Samantha and I broke up until the restraining order was finalized. During that time, Lydia and I maintained our friendship exactly as it had always been, completely platonic and entirely appropriate. The experience actually strengthened our friendship because we had supported each other through such a difficult and bizarre situation. Lydia and Bruce's marriage survived the turmoil, though Bruce admitted that the constant questioning of his wife's fidelity had been exhausting and harmful to their relationship. They decided to attend couples counseling to address the trust issues that Samantha's campaign had created, even though both of them knew Lydia had done nothing wrong. As for me, The experience taught me to recognize red flags in relationships that I had previously dismissed as normal jealousy. Samantha's initial concerns about my friendship with Lydia had seemed reasonable, but her inability to accept reassurance or evidence should have warned me that deeper issues were involved. I haven't had any contact with Samantha since receiving her letter of apology 8 weeks ago. The restraining order remains in place, and I hope she's getting the help she needs to address whatever led to such destructive behavior. I don't wish her harm, but I also never want to deal with that level of chaos and manipulation again. The situation is finally over, and everyone involved is moving forward with their lives. Sometimes I still can't believe that a simple workplace friendship caused so much drama, but I'm grateful that the truth eventually prevailed and that no one's career or marriage was permanently damaged by Samantha's actions. Now let's